1300 1069 FM. We got some breaking news this morning, some big news, and I don't know if we're kind of learning more now, and I'm getting a little more optimistic. I don't know if you've heard this, but Big Ten says they have voted to play football this fall. Our sports director, Brett Paquita, here with us right now. Brett, how are you, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Are you excited? Are you getting excited now?
I am, because I think it's official now, but here's the thing. It broke just as your show was starting with the Detroit Free Press with an article, but nothing in that was confirmed. Now, in the last half hour, we've seen multiple reports saying that just what you said. The conference is going to move forward. They're going to start October 23rd, 24th. Yeah. The Big Ten Council Presidents and Chancellors voted unanimously to start the football season again, and they're going to have some different protocols in place. But interesting, I mean, one of them is athletes will have to wait at least 21 days before returning to game competition after a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. Also, they're looking at different protocols, including enhanced cardiac
screening. That may be a whole
screening.
season.
Yeah, because there's concerns about enlarged heart.
21 days, maybe a whole season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
8 games.
It's an 8-week schedule, and then you've got the Big Ten championship game, which they've got scheduled to be played the day before, ironically enough. Yeah. They had to get this in. Yeah. The day before they have the national championship listing of teams and the Final Four. So we want to make sure and still get that into play to play for a national championship if we have a team from the Big Ten Conference worthy enough.
Is there anything, is it going to be all the teams? Is there anything in there? I know we heard some things about maybe Michigan won't play, maybe Michigan State won't play.
All 14 teams are expected to compete. And how that plays out with an 8-game schedule, obviously, and teams that you might miss, depending on how that schedule works out for you and your respective team. But that's what they're looking at. And also, again, the key here is the Big Ten championship game scheduled for December 19th. The day before the college football playoff pairings are expected to be announced, which is always that Sunday.
Brett Paquita here with us, sports director. You're hearing the news first here on Wood Radio. Some good news. And I don't know about you, man, but are you ready to have a little bit more normalcy?
I'm still getting ready to high school football on Friday night, Justin, so this is just something else to pile on. But I think what happened here is, obviously, we all know the almighty dollar plays big into this, but to watch other conferences and other schools and teams play, I think that pushes people over the top when it comes to, because you've heard about parents' outcry, student-athlete outcry that they want to get back and play, just like you saw with high school, right, here in the state of Michigan. And to see other states play was the case there. I think it's just the natural domino effect, whether it's right or wrong or where you stand on the health and safety, which should be the most important. That's the reality, I think, of what happened here in this, as the SEC and ACC, Notre Dame played last week just down the road in South Bend. I mean, you can get to Notre Dame's campus from Grand Rapids easier than you can to Ann Arbor. It's a shorter trip. So when you mathematically look at that, people are saying, why does Notre Dame get to play and Michigan and Michigan State don't get to play?
They were students in the stands there.
Yes.
You know, so one of the other things is if the Lions can play, can't they figure out how to do that here? Right. And it sounds like you're getting closer to that, or maybe they figured that out.
And that also is just another step in this process. Again, we're sitting there watching NFL games, listening to NFL games last weekend, and then there's no college football. Like I said, high school football is going to start. Now, obviously the biggest fear, and I have to admit, it's in me as a broadcaster, because I'll be going out to these games live and sitting in the press box and broadcasting like I normally do. There's different protocols in place for the press box. It's going to be weird to sit there in a fairly empty stadium. I've been a little bit acclimated to it because my son plays soccer. And so even last night I was at a soccer game and to see, but that's a little bit different.
But you work it out. Everybody's kind of figuring it out as we go along.
And that's just it. I think the more you witness it and see it, the more comfortable you become with it. I know a big thing right now the parents are concerned about, and I get it. And I see it with my daughter as a youth soccer player too, is masks. Wearing the masks during competition.
Will these players have to wear masks?
I don't know, because at college, I would say no. I didn't see it this weekend. High school, though, they do. And I know that that's a big adjustment process for a lot of people.
We're out of time right now, but we're going to go. The after show is live right now, streaming on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can go check that out at Mr. Justin Barclay and at Wood Radio as well. But good news, the Big Ten voting to play fall football And we're still learning. That announcement's supposed to come today. Brett Bakita will continue our conversation with right after this. We're back tomorrow morning at 9:06. The Glenn Beck program is on the way, and we'll get our headlines. Tony Allen in the newsroom right after this. All right. If you're still streaming with us, you're watching online, we appreciate you being here. Brett's still hanging out in the studio. Well, if you have questions, let us know. Brett, you might still want those. Yeah, we're still live. We're not on the radio. This is the after show now. So we're not on the radio, but we are streaming Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you have questions for Brett or maybe what this might look like, you can even call in too if you want. 616-774-2424. 616-774-2424. What do you think moved the needle, man? Do you think this was just money? This was like, there's so much on the line right now. If we don't play and the NFL plays and the high school sports play, what's that going to do to it? Do you think that played into it?
I think pressure? That's always back there, Justin. It just is. And for people that, get sickened by that, that's America, right? We've seen it. We've seen it with our economy. Now, but
also these. I don't want to just discount it. Like, money's the almighty. This is the thing. This is the big issue. But at the end of the day, these schools depend on these programs for a big portion of how things are funded at the schools, and a lot of things suffer if these programs don't play. So it's not just like they're greedy. There's a lot of things that go into play here.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to point out. When I say that, I'm not trying to say it like professional sports stance. I'm saying it as the reality it is. It's the elephant in the room, right? We know that. Now, to specifically why this coming down now, I think there's been a lot of pressure building up. I do. Yeah. For these presidents and these chancellors because of how big college athletics is. Like I said earlier on the air, there's the parent outcry, there's the student athlete outcry, there's the sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
And so all of that, I think, really came into play with these guys. And then the final, I think, harsh reality that was hit is, why is it okay to play football? For instance, let's take a state like Iowa.
Right.
I'm watching Iowa State play a home game in front of basically just parents and invited guests, and then the cheerleaders and the band. Mm-hmm. And in their own state, the Iowa Hawkeyes, which play in a different conference, Iowa State plays in the Big 12, not playing football. That's how many miles apart. They're within the same state.
Yeah.
Two highly respected universities in that state, one playing football, one not. We don't even have that here in Michigan, as crazy it is, because Western, Central, Michigan State, all not playing by their respective conferences. But it really struck me. I think that's the thing that just kind of pushed it, if you will, over the top, is we're watching other colleges and universities doing it and supposedly doing it with safety concerns, all accredited. And why can't we?
So the story out less than 5 weeks after pushing football and other sports this spring in the name of player safety during the pandemic, conference changed course Wednesday and said it plans to begin its season October 23rd, 24th weekend. Each team will have an 8-game schedule. This breaking news came out this morning. Brett Bakita joins us right now to talk about the after show. The Big Ten said its council presidents and chancellors voted unanimously today to restart sports. So the vote was last night then. The vote last month was 11-3 to postpone. The Ohio State, Iowa, and Nebraska voting against postponing. And now, one of the things I'm learning, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you can say on this, maybe we just don't know yet, but how much of a role did the president play when he started to get involved? And I'm talking about not the president of any university, but president of the United States coming in saying, we'd like to see this. I just spoke with the Big Ten, and this was about a week or so back, talking about trying to get a deal. Did he play a role in trying to get this deal done?
I think so. And I think he would tell you that. They came out and talked about his conversation, if you will, and the Big Ten Conference acknowledged that President Trump talked to the Big Ten commissioner on this very topic.
Yeah.
You saw a push for schools getting back to normalcy the best they can, and obviously, mm-hmm. starting up on time in the fall. Athletics is a part of that, right? Not more important than academics by any means. I'm not saying that, but it's just like anything else. Extracurriculars with band, with different things. So involvement by a lot of people is going to get the attention, especially in this political campaign that we're in right now, right? To try to get things to as back to normal as possible. And one of those in this world is, for us in America, sports, right? And having that release, having that, whatever you want to call it. Now, you're not going to see, I don't think, from the Big Ten, and we don't know this yet. Obviously, this is an ever-changing thing that has just come out in the last hour. I didn't see anything in these articles about spectators. I'm assuming they're going to keep the same stance there that we've seen pretty much across the board. Now, you mentioned Notre Dame, I think, was at 20% capacity.
Yeah, the kids were kind of speckled throughout the stadium in pockets. They were all wearing masks, which I thought was interesting. Maybe you have to in order to get that, to get the be able to watch and come in and watch in the stadiums. I don't know what the NFL is doing. Maybe you can shine some light on that. I know Detroit, with the Lions game, they had this very strange, like, digital kind of virtual crowd that at first I'm watching it, I thought, there are people in the stands. That's crazy. And then I looked a little closer. Those aren't real people.
I think that was an NFL kind of TV network.
Fox said they were going to do it.
Yeah, just to make it look a little more realistic. I was kind of thrown off by that too. And then I saw, oh, wait a minute. As you're watching, they're doing the same type of motions.
Yeah.
It was sort of like going to the movie Speed. Remember that with the bus?
Yeah.
They were kind of rolling the same thing over and over again. Wildcat, Justin. Wildcat. But you look at the situation, whatever it is, I think what we've seen at the college level and obviously at the NFL level, because Kansas City, remember, played in the season opener, and they're coming off a Super Bowl. They had fans. Detroit came out and said no fans the first 2 weeks. So for them, so I think it might be left up to, because of state regulations, the specific franchises and how they're going to handle that. But I wouldn't see anybody in the Big Ten, in this case, institutions, I should say, anyone going above that kind of 20% capacity, just because it's so hard to social distance otherwise.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think that's a good point. It might be different based on which stadium or which school will allow, based upon the parameters of what their state has allowed for. Michigan, you may not get anybody in the big house, which is kind of wild to me. If you can social distance anywhere, it would be in the big house, right?
Think about it. 3 of the bigger venues in all of college football, regardless of conference, lie in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, you've got Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan that all have capacities every game day Saturday over 100,000.
It's incredible. The breaking news, today's after show, which was part of the real show and then turned into the after show as well, is that the Big Ten has decided that they are going to play. They voted last night, according to the article. And look at this. Holy smokes. I got a little bit more confirmation for you. Here's a little bit more. If you check out the article, and let me stream this to you so you can see it too. Tweeting from UMich football Twitter account, we're back. Michigan football is back. That came out this morning at 9:28. So that tells me, by process of elimination, as we're still trying to learn a little bit more on this, it sounds like everybody's going to play, Brad.
And again, if you're wondering about tickets and how coveted they would be, because remember, Michigan was going to just have tickets for season ticket holders. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they were going to be on an individual game basis.
Yeah.
Check with your favorite institution, because I'm sure information will ever be changing, but they'll get those out as soon as possible, because the turnaround on this looks like it's going to be about a month right now from where we sit, where they'll play. And obviously they need to get teams back practicing. They've got to get them acclimated. They got to go through their own testing protocol.
So what does all of that look like? I can't imagine. I mean, that's why you got a little bit of a ramp up time, almost a little bit more than a month now, it looks like, I guess.
It's going to be a struggle. I got to be honest with you, Justin, because unlike the NFL, you've seen, and I've seen it at the high school ranks, I'm expecting some rustiness on Friday night for those first games because, for instance, and you saw it with, I think, a little bit even in the NFL with no preseason games. I mean, no scrimmages for high school. There obviously won't be much scrimmage time for college. They'll try to play a little catch-up here. But the big thing is, too, you've got to get these athletes conditioned after they were told basically shut down, we'll look at spring.
Yeah.
And they had practiced a little bit to now restarting, which I think is difficult. And in the NFL, we noted with Ty Halleck in our segment on Monday morning, played a little Monday morning quarterback. He said how many hamstring injuries you saw in the NFL alone, a ton of them. So player injury, that's the other part of player safety besides the COVID concern.
Is that just not being conditioned, not being ready to go?
Well, sure. I mean, think about it. You've been interrupted. Think about worked out consistently for 3 weeks, and then you shut it down maybe to go on vacation or whatever for a week or two and then come back, right? Mm-hmm. Your body's barking to you as far as pains come a little bit quicker.
Yeah. You don't we saw that with Major League Baseball too, didn't we? When they tried to cram so many games in together, they were getting injured because they were trying to playing more often.
Even though in high school and in college they've been able to do some things to try to stay in shape and get together team activities and so forth, I just don't think it's the same because now you got to turn that switch on again. I'm glad they're giving them a month to work out some of that kinks and to do some of the hitting and contact that's necessary to prepare your body for football. But like I said, it'll be real interesting. And here's the thing. 6 weeks for the regular season for high school football. This is an 8-week. So you don't have a lot of time if you lose a couple of games as far as catch up. Every game becomes that much more important. It already is in a football season, but now with shortened seasons in football becomes that much more important as far as playing everything out.
Conference said it will require each school to designate a chief infection officer to oversee the collection and reporting of data for the conference. Team test positivity rate and population positivity rate thresholds will be used to determine whether teams must halt practice or play. The earliest an athlete can return to game competition would be 21 days following their positive diagnosis, as you mentioned right earlier. And that makes me wonder, as I look at them and think about, will we have some possible cancellations like we did early on with Major League Baseball?
You could. I mean, LSU, their head coach, Ed Orgeron, in a story that I had this morning on West Michigan's Morning News on Wood Radio, he's convinced that most of the players on his team roster have had COVID. Not that they currently have it, have had COVID, and then there's a 90-day clearance and so forth. I think that's pretty tight. I mean, this is your national championship team, and he's convinced he didn't have specific numbers, but he used the word most, meaning more than half, right? And your dialogue and my dialogue have had COVID on his team.
That's pretty incredible. That says a couple of things. They didn't get sick, so they've had it, but they didn't get sick, or they didn't get sick to the extent that it was a major issue for them, not hospitalized, that kind of thing. And it sounds like it kind of spread through the team. Right. Maybe that's a good thing, so maybe they don't get sick again. I don't know. We're still kind of learning about these things. But if it spread through the team, everybody had it. And we saw a story today. There was a story actually that came out about the virus itself today that said they definitely think that it was here back. There's evidence to say that it was here back in December in the country. There were a lot of people that were sick, hospitals, et cetera, with a respiratory-like illness in December, and that probably people could have had it earlier. So maybe there's a question as to, when it got here. And if that's the case, that would actually be good news for a lot of these football teams, that they had the players did have the virus. Maybe they recovered from it, and maybe there won't be any issues moving forward. I don't know.
But here's the thing. The SEC hasn't started yet. The ACC kicked off. The SEC is going to start September 26th. They purposely moved it back to give them a little bit more time. Yeah. If any of these conferences have a team or two, like we saw in baseball, St. Louis, remember, their situation in Miami, right, where they can't play games, you could make those games up, even a condensed baseball schedule, because you play every day. Yeah. If you have a team or two or, God forbid, 3 in your conference because of the intermingling when they play that have to, I don't know, is it a forfeit then? Can't play games? Then how do you
figure out the championship?
How do you have, a conference championship? How do you have that team being eligible for the national championship? I mean, I'm not trying to make it all about looking at what's happening on the field. I'm just saying that's one of the questions you have to ask yourself.
Solid question. Right? Yeah, I think it's important. But here's the good news, right? Because there's still so many questions. There will be questions, and you'll be talking about this as the days move on. And of course, West Michigan's Morning News, our good friends and our sister station, ESPN 961, Jim and Drew, they'll be talking about it today too. These are things that we'll continue to talk about. These is a step in the right direction, at least. I'm thinking a lot of people are feeling that way. At least we're moving forward. We got some positive. We got some good news. Positive may not be the word you want to use these days, if you know what I mean. But we've got some good news for these guys. And you got to feel good that these guys are going to be able to play maybe when the question of the season was just on the line.
Well, and here's the other thing you have to ask yourself, and I think why college sports kind of took a little bit of a back seat that is going to come back up as far as the student body is concerned. Look what's happening on campus just on the academic side with locally Grand Valley State, Michigan State, Central had an outbreak. Are those athletes going to live in a bubble on
They're going to need
campus?
to, they're going to, I will tell you that they have never had more reason to make sure that they do. Because if you get test positive and you can't play and you got to sit for 21 days, you got 8 weeks. I mean, that could be your season, man.
So what's the protocol going to be there? Is everyone living in one dorm? Is one dorm just for athletes? And then is it athletes from other sports teams on campus? And then what's the intermingling going on there? I mean, you know how it is. I say this, college campus is college campus.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, more questions than answers right now, but at least a step in the right direction. That's our after show today. And I got to tell you, always a pleasure. Brett, thank you for this. Is just wild how the breaking news kind of came out. We had planned that you and I would sort of talk about this today, but we had no idea what the sort of scope of the breaking news that we were going to hear about today. And this just kind of happened. So a third after show, and maybe the best one yet, Brett.
Hey, thanks for having me as always, Justin.
Yeah, that's a credit to you, my friend. Hey, thank you for watching this. And by the way, if you're watching, you're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're streaming this right now, we appreciate it. We're going to do these after shows. This is something we thought we'd try out because a lot of folks had reached out and said, there was a time when we went a couple of hours because of the coronavirus and the pandemic, and wanted to bring you all the breaking news, the things that were happening. And we thought, well, this is important. Yeah, we kind of backed off of that back in June. The emergency, so to speak, had kind of gone away to the extent that we needed to get information out every day. And so we decided to go ahead and make sure that, we did one show or 1 hour. But in people asked for it. Can you do a little bit more? So we decided we'd try a little something different, the after show, and it looks like it's panning out. So we'll continue this. If you like it, please let us know. Justin at justinbarclay.com is the email. You can always email me there. Of course, you want to catch up, get more good news, stuff like what we talked about earlier today and all the good stuff. We want to make sure you hear it, because here's the thing. A lot of times these days, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's all you're going to hear. And I just think there's so many more great things happening in the world, and you ought to know about it. JustinBarclay.com/good news. I want to say thanks to the folks at the Good Feet store. Don't just live with foot pain. Visit the Good Feet store and see if they can help you as much as they've helped me. I've been through the ringer, up and down through the years, trying to lose this weight, and I usually would get stopped dead in my tracks because of foot pain. And now I'm down 100 pounds. I haven't had any issues with foot pain, and it all started with a step, the first one, into the Good Feet store. Walk in and see for yourself at 28th Street. In fact, I reached out and I told these guys, I said, I want to share this with other people because it's helped me so much. In fact, I think it might be able to help you or someone you love. So go into the 28th Street store there near Target, or learn more at goodfeet.com. Call 616-200-6079 for more info, and see the folks at the Good Feet store today. That's it. I'm Justin. Make it a great day. We'll see you tomorrow at 9:06.